Hi, my name's Eric. Welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about Ariana Grande. Today, she's releasing her brand new album, Positions, and I'm here to give it my first reaction and to break down the album's lyrics. If you've seen my videos on my favorite songs and albums of 2019 and of the 2010s, then you'll know that I really enjoy Ariana's music, and since the title track to this album came out last week, I've had it on repeat. It is so catchy, so I'm so excited to dive into this album. But before I do, let me know in the comments down below what your favorite Ariana Grande song is. Mine is Into You. Check the description box for a link to a list of nonprofits you can donate to. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos every week, and hit the bell icon to be notified when my videos go live. Next week I plan on checking out Kylie Minogue's new album Disco, so stay tuned for that. Also, in case you're watching this on Halloween, I am festive. I have my Jack Skellington shirt on. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a really happy Halloween. Without further ado, track number 1 is Shut Up.
My presence sweet and my aura bright. Diamonds good for my appetite. Guess if you just clicked one night. All them demons tell me see differently. How you been spending your time? How you be using your time? You be so worried about mine. Can't even get yourself mine. And maybe you should shut up. Shut
I love the sarcasm and the attitude. The vocal precision too is just so impressive.
You be so worried about mine. Can't even get yourself mine. No, you sound so dumb.
I love strings. You know that about me. I absolutely love them. Wow, I love the production on that. I love the contrast between that orchestral pop sound, which is more often associated with a lot of sincerity and sort of a lovelorn feeling, and the lyrics, which are very up-to-date, obviously, but also very sarcastic. And I think it fits nicely with sort of the plushness of a lot of Sweetener. What's interesting about this song is that it kind of sounds like a clapback to the response to Seven Rings, because Ariana's talking about this person who's running their mouth and criticizing her, and she says, you know, I have my own demons and struggles, and something that helps me cope and that makes me happy is diamonds. And this seems to be her explaining the motivation behind Seven Rings, right? Because the story to that song is she just experienced this painful breakup, and so she and her friends head off to Tiffany's to go buy things to make her feel better. The thing is, a lot of people saw Seven Rings as basically a misuse of the hip-hop flex trope, because in rap, the impulse to show off wealth comes from a history of socioeconomic oppression, whereas in Seven Rings, it came from really just Ariana's personal problems. So Shut Up feels like Ariana saying, I've been through it and this is how I handle it. Does it actually address what people saw as the problem with Seven Rings? Not really. But at the very least, I think she's just establishing the headspace that she's approaching this album from. Carefree, unbothered, and maybe recklessly indulgent. Track number 2 is 34 plus 35. This is one of those times when I wish that I could just do basic arithmetic, because maybe there was like a secret message here or something that I was meant to pick up on, but I can't, so.
You might think I'm crazy. The way I've been craving. If I put it quite plainly, just give me the babies. So what you doing tonight? I don't wanna keep you up, but show me, can you keep it up? Yeah. Cause then I'll have to keep you up. So maybe I'ma keep you up. 30 for 35. Can you stay up all night? You say it tastes like candy. So what you doing tonight? Better stay doing you right. I've been drinking coffee, and I've been eating healthy. No it's wicked. The neighbors in an earthquake. Put my pop on, make the best shit. Put it down heavy, even though it's lightweight.
That was really cute. I like that that song continued the strings and beats motif from the opener. It reminds me a lot of the production on songs like Successful from Sweetener. I feel like someone will point this out at some point, but it also reminds me of like the Me Channel music on the Wii, in a good way. So not a whole lot to unpack here, but on the first track, Ariana was basically saying, my first pleasure in life is shiny things, and now her pleasure in life is intimacy. The song is basically just a series of puns and innuendos that I'm sure I don't have to explain, but having heard the title track, an idea that I think Ariana is starting to set up here is reciprocity. Like the complementary 34 and 35, bringing these two halves together to make things work. This is sort of a natural conclusion to any love song about two people, sort of a yin and yang trope, but it plays an important part in the title track, which again I'll get to. So maybe she'll continue to expand on this idea on track number 3, Motive, featuring Doja Cat.
Tell me where I get this feeling.
Ooh. Got a house beat here?
I see you trying, subliminally trying to see if I'm gonna be the one to say wrong. But before I lead you on, baby, tell me what's your motive? What's your motive? What's your motive? What's your motive? You want me if you can't keep coming back for me. Might have to curb you if you just can't touch straight. Just say, 'cause I see you trying, subliminally trying.
I like the beat changes.
Gonna be the one to say wrong. Tell me what's your motive? What's your motive? What's your motive? You treat me like gold, baby. Now you wanna spoil me? Did you want a trophy or you wanna sport me, baby? 'Cause you got your candy on your own. No need to sugarcoat a lie. Say what you want.
I'm enjoying the different flows too.
Tell me everything that's on your mind. What's your motive? What's your motive? What's your motive?
Cool. That was really clean and breezy and fun and fast moving. Even though it doesn't have quite the same sort of dramatic weight as Bad Idea, the ominousness and minor key remind me of that song. And I feel like so far this album is even more streamlined than Thank You Next. And the Doja feature is always welcome. They played off each other and complemented each other very nicely. There we go, the thing that I'm always looking for when thinking about love, conflict. She's introducing some tension and suspicion, and I think there are two things going on here. First, we know, of course, from Sweetener and Thank You Next and the opener here, that Ariana has been hurt before, and of course she would be hesitant approaching new love. And second, a lot of these lyrics tie back to the ideas of wealth and of flaunting that wealth, and specifically of Ariana being treated as an object to be shown off. So it feels like part of Ariana's suspicion here comes from her celebrity status. When she's a commodity and a status symbol, she's worried about being treated basically as like a one-way ticket to fame and nothing deeper. And as I've talked about in some of my other videos, this is a pretty common idea that big pop stars like Janet Jackson and Madonna explore in their music as well. So on the bridge, Doja says, "You treat me like gold, baby, now you wanna spoil me. Did you want a trophy or you wanna sport me?" On the one hand, this sounds cute, like, oh, you think I'm like gold, you wanna show me off, okay. But the underlying problem is that this is kind of objectifying. So when Ariana says, "Tell me what's your motive," she's saying, am I gold to you as in you're number one, or as in something you can wear around for status? Track number 4 is Just Like Magic.
Wake up in my bed, I just wanna have a good day. Thinking in my head, and it happens how it should. Ay. You calm my mind steady. Keep my conscience clear, that's why I'm so magnetic. Take my pen and write some love letters to heaven. Just like magic, just like magic. Middle finger to my pen and I snap it. Just like magic, I'm attracted. Say it's tricky at the top, gotta keep it steady.
This gives me big Tinashe vibes.
But I just another life. Manifested, I finessed it. Take my pen and write some love letters to heaven. Just like magic, just like magic. I'm attracted. I get everything I want 'cause I'm attracted.
That's a good pun. I like that.
Just like you pray, we gon' make some new habits. Just like magic, just like magic.
Okay, so emotionally, we seem to be in a pretty similar place to a good chunk of Sweetener. I feel like the way that she structured her last two albums, the first half is very bright and sunny and carefree, and then we get into the emotional stuff as we move deeper into it, which is pretty standard. But this song is just so sincere on the surface and just so bright and bubbly and effervescent that it almost tops Successful and Sweetener in just how sugary it is. Okay, so I fully acknowledge that this can just be another uncomplicated flex trope, girl power, boss energy anthem, just like Seven Rings, but if you know me, you know that I'm a bit of a pessimist. So coming from that angle, the song almost strikes me as like misguided toxic positivity. She just got done talking about how insecure she is about being used for her wealth and fame, and now she's spouting these basically Gen Z equivalent of 80s life coach positive affirmations talking about manifesting her success. But we know from Seven Rings and Shut Up that her impulse to show off comes from a place of wanting to conceal and get over her past trauma. This feels like her covering up like sad, torn black and white photos of her exes with live, laugh, love wall art. And I think that's by design. To my pessimistic ears, it reminds me of a song like Sweetener or Successful, where I can almost see her coming home from getting a scan of her traumatized brain and looking in the mirror and saying, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. And again, that doesn't mean that it can't be the empowerment song that it is on the surface. It can be both things at once, but that's just how it reads to me. Track number 5 is Off the Table featuring The Weeknd.
Will I ever love the same way again? Will I ever love somebody like the way I did? You swear I don't mean to be this way. If I can't have you, is love completely off the table? Should I be going too steady? But I just wanna know, is love completely off the table?
Incredible vocals.
I'll wait for you.
There he is.
Even though it always feels like I'll be number 2 to someone you can't hold anymore.
Okay.
'Cause I got you, girl. Let me help you through it. You try to feel the void, been a couple boys, I can see right through it. I was haunted by the hills.
Oh, the hills. Okay,
I
cool,
couldn't
cool.
give you my all, but I will. Will you be there? Yes, I will. Deep end, oh yeah. You must have. But it's gonna be hard to let someone else in.
Wow. Wow. So lush and indulgent. Their vocals, they worked so well together. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that they reunited for this song. And I love the motif of the strings that is tying this whole album together. I did not expect that. Totally fits the aesthetic that she's going for, the sort of retro feel. It's beautiful. So we are approaching the midpoint of the album, which means, as usual, we are getting into some deeper emotional territory. And here, Ariana is opening up about her feelings of doubt as to whether, after all of her heartbreak, she can love again. We're basically picking up from where Ghostin left off, with Ariana being so haunted by her past that she can't look towards the future. She knows that she needs a clean break and a new start. She says, do I sit this one out and wait for the next life? In her mind, she's done. There is no coming out of this grief. And then on the bridge, The Weeknd performs the other side of this conversation. On Ghostin', Ariana was conscious of the fact that her boyfriend, presumably Pete, knew that she wasn't over her ex, presumably Mac. Not a whole lot of speculation needed there. And here, The Weeknd sort of expands his own mythology and even references the hills, and he says, look, I'm willing to try, even though it always feels like I'll be number 2. These are two artists whose music, especially recently, has sort of painted them as broken and unable to love fully, so seeing them come together and their stories cross over is really interesting. And I love how lyrically Abel's self-proclaimed toxicity and Ariana's grief combine to make a really unstable and haunted love song. Track number 6 is 6:30.
Yeah. I know I be on some bullshit. Know I be driving you crazy, but I know you love how I wear it, but you could only stay mad for a minute. You know I'm very delicious, and you know I'm very impatient. Might change my mind, so don't keep me waiting. So boy, let me know if you're ready. Are you down? What's up? Are you down? What's up? Are you down? You know you be on some bullshit. So possessive and crazy, crazy. But I know it's just cause you love me, and you ain't scared to show me you're ugly. Are you down? Listen, are you down? Listen, are you down? Tell me, are you down? Are you gonna be? Am I enough to keep your love? When I'm old and stuck, we still have a crush. Time is 6:30, yeah.
This is another flirtatious song that seems in the vein lyrically as her cover/remix of Imogen Heap's Goodnight and Go, where she talked about playing with her partner's mind and being a tease. And here she's getting some of that in return. She starts out with her typical sort of come-ons, saying, I'm delicious, I'm impatient, and then she says on the second verse that her partner's eyes are possessive. And I know that's just a momentary detail, but it does align with her preoccupation with being owned and objectified on Motive. So the characterization here is really clear. Ariana flip-flops between being eager and being flighty, and her partner is possessive and she can't quite figure him out. She's still working on building a sense of trust. Track number 7 is Safety Net featuring Ty Dolla $ign.
You know you really something, yeah. How we get here so damn fast. You're making me forget my past. Never thought I'd feel like that again. I came to peace with my past. Now you got me off track. Tripping, falling with no safety net. It must be something that you said. Is it in my head?
That's a reference back. Ooh, that was nice. Her voice sounds very full. Another very dreamlike song. I like the ambience of the production. I was not expecting Ty Dolla $ign's vocal performance here. Very nice. Again, complemented each other perfectly. The production on this album is just so nice. Okay, so the next step in Ariana exploring this underlying discomfort with new love is realizing that she's falling for this person and that makes her vulnerable. So once again, she's struggling with the feeling of relinquishing control. She's felt like an object that can be owned, and now she feels like she can't control where this love takes her. On the first verse, she says that she doesn't know even how they got to this point in the relationship so fast, and then of course she describes this process as tripping and falling without a safety net. And of course, she's still preoccupied with her past. She says, "You're making me forget my past," which you'd think would be a good thing, until she says, "I came to peace with my past, now you got me off track." It seems like there's something comforting about dwelling on the past. It's familiar and unchanging. So moving past it presumably feels really unsure, like a new beginning. We'll see where this goes on track number 8, My Hair.
So I'ma give you some instructions that you can't be scared to try. I want you to touch it softly, like the way you do my mind. Don't you be scared. So run your hands through my hair. Run your hands through my hair. Oh, babe, so don't you be scared. It's been way long overdue, just like these inches down my back. But I don't care. So run your hands through my hair.
What's fun about this song is that it feels like it actually reflects the importance of the fact that Ariana changed her hairstyle for this album cycle. I know that was like such a huge deal for her to drop that high ponytail. So not only was the hair an important part of the visual marketing of this album, it's also playing now thematic importance in this narrative of her growing more comfortable with this person. This is also Ariana's 90s R&B influences in full swing. What's really interesting about this album is that the tracks lyrically seem to alternate very cleanly between confidence and insecurity. I mean, just look at 34 plus 35, which was flirtatious and optimistic, and then Motive, which was more paranoid and again insecure. You can look also at Just Like Magic, which was almost quixotically optimistic, and then Off the Table, which was haunted and unsteady. And once again, we leave the insecurity of Safety Net for the heart eyes world of My Hair. So just like 34 plus 35 started to set up this idea of equals and opposites, now the whole album really performs this idea through these alternating complementary tracks. The song in particular is about Ariana letting her guard down, embracing touch, and breaking down the walls that she's built. And the image she uses to convey this is, of course, her hair, which she basically says she's been growing out for as long as she's been single, and her hair's getting long. She's ready to do what any other reasonable character would do in a movie at this point, and cut her hair dramatically in the mirror while crying. Track number 9 is Nasty.
Got me all up in my feels, in all kind of ways. No more playing safe, let's take it all the way. I'm just saying, I just wanna make time for you. Swear it's just right for you. 10 out of 5 on you. Know I was sign on the line for you. Bet I look nice on you. Don't wanna wait on it tonight, I wanna get nasty. What you waiting for? What you waiting for? What you waiting for? Promise I'ma give it to you like you never had it. I do it so good, it's gonna be hard to break the habit. Don't wanna wait on it tonight, I wanna get nasty. What you waiting for? What you waiting for? What you waiting for? Let's do it fast and play so sweet. Let's do it behind, but boy, I'm weak. Yeah, my body's gotta say something to you. Wanna get nasty. What you waiting for? What you waiting
So that song also really, really reminded me of Tinashe, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I am a big Tinashe fan, so that is a good thing. I know a while ago people were hoping that Ariana would end up on a remix of Naked, and that didn't happen, but there's always a chance for Tinashe to end up on a remix of Nasty. I sure wouldn't be opposed to it. This actually feels like the moment where Ariana is breaking this pattern and letting go and embracing love or, something like it in this very straightforwardly romantic song. She talks about, I think, being a 10 out of 5 for her partner, which gives me very 5 out of 7 energy. She brings back the idea of being worn like clothing when she says, "Bet I look nice on you." Except it feels like she's saying this without the same level of suspicion that she had on Motive. Because whereas before she was the one who was sort of hesitant and unsure, now she repeats, "What you waiting for?" She is ready. This is the peak of her desire. We'll see how that works out for her on track number 10, West Side. Fingers crossed for another musical theater sample from West Side Story.
I don't wanna think so much. I just wanna feel. You know that it ain't no rush. Let me keep it real. I'm gonna make you want more. I'm gonna be a new favorite. Tell 'em you're closing the door. I am the only for sure. It's more love if you follow emotions. Show up. Now if you down to roll up. Meet me on the west side for me. Better every time we chill. You ain't gotta bring no stuff. We got all we need right here. Tell 'em you're closing the door. I am the only for sure. Hold up, there shouldn't be no hold up. Meet me on the west side for me. Hold up, there shouldn't be no hold up. Meet me on the west side for me.
Interesting. Okay. No bridge, no chorus repeat. Really brief, I think that worked though. It almost felt like an interlude in how just relaxed it was. Sadly, I couldn't hear a West Side Story reference there. If you heard it, please let me know. It sounds like she was referring back to The Light Is Coming when she said, I'll bring the light right back. So really, she's reminding us again that she's spent these 3 albums trying to pull herself out of this darkness. And of course, the way that she's been doing that on this album is through love and romance. So when she says there shouldn't be no holdup, there's more love if you follow emotions, it could just as easily be her encouraging her lover as her reassuring herself. Also, I'm not sure if Ariana had this in mind, but both LA and New York City have generally their wealthier neighborhoods on the west side. So once again, we might have this correlation between pursuing love and this sort of aspirational idea of economic success. Track number 11 is Love Language. My love language, in case you're curious, is subscribing to my YouTube channel. Okay.
I know you probably think it was the use. I promise it's the little things that you do. You soothe me. You hold it down with every word you speak. Been a minute since I had something so sweet. If you gon' keep speaking my love language, you can talk shit all night. Teach me how to love you, I'm learning what it is. I want you to keep speaking my love language, baby, talk it all night. You soothe me, you hold it down with every word you speak. Been a minute since I had something so sweet. Teach me how to love you, I'm learning what it is. I want you to keep speaking my love language, baby, talk it all night.
I like this one a lot.
Head over my shoes like whoa. Know you like an inside joke. Running 'cause you just must be. That's you wanted in slow mo. I ain't tryna start no please. I'm just gonna make you my home.
Oh, that was cute. I love the addition of an outro. I think that it introduced some nice variety in the song structures here. So it sounds like Ariana is starting to settle into this feeling of being loved and of accepting that love. And it also feels like she is maturing from her earlier perspective on wealth and grammar. Grammar? Glamour. Spot the English major. Because at the beginning of the song, she says, it's the little things that you do that make me want to give my all to you. This doesn't super explicitly reverse her thoughts on diamonds and jewelry and whatever else from earlier on the album, but I think we can agree that there's a pretty big difference between the simple pleasures of intimacy and the expensive habits that she had. In that way, she as a character has grown up just since the beginning of the album. On Shut Up, she was indignant and trying to defend her materialism, and here she's realized that the most important thing to her is embracing this deeper emotional connection. How very altruistic of her. Track number 12 is the title track, Positions.
Heaven sent you to me. I'm just hoping I don't repeat history. I'm trying to reach mama on Sunday. To make love on Monday. Switching up positions for you. Getting in the kitchen and I'm in the bedroom. And then nothing I wouldn't do, but I won't do. Switching for your face. Boy, I'm trying to reach mama on Sunday. To make love on Monday. I'll be switching up positions for you. Don't need to let they say I'm coming through. And then nothing I wouldn't do. 'Cause you come through, 'cause you come through. Switching up positions for you.
That song is so much fun. The production is so lush. Her vocal performance is just impeccable. I love how it's continually adding new elements to keep things interesting, keeps the song structure compact and quick and really re-listenable. What I love about this song is that the title is a pun, because not only is Ariana talking about physical positions, but also about power dynamics. I'm just going to repeat the important lines from the chorus here. Switching the positions for you, cooking in the kitchen, and I'm in the bedroom. It's not 100% grammatically clear to me whether she's saying that he's in the kitchen and she's in the bedroom, or whether she is doing both, but we actually get some clarity on this in the music video, where the scene literally flips physically 180 degrees, and in one moment she is the president, this thus far dominant masculine role, and then in the next scene, this perfect mid-century Jackie O style first lady. Get yourself a woman who can do both. And this is obviously an oversimplification, but she's signaling to us an exchange in power from first in command to support system. And as I alluded to earlier, this ties back to 34 plus 35, where the two partners are in this reciprocal relationship and in this exchange. And stay with me here, but we know that Ariana has been into gender politics on earlier songs like God is a Woman, and I think she specifically chose the retro aesthetic and mentions in the song not wanting to repeat the past, because I think she's hinting to us this sort of orienting of this binary, very traditional gender norms view of these relationships as in the past. So from the retro aesthetic of the video, we get this implication that this view of women as belonging traditionally in the domestic sphere is, of course, rooted in the past, and the future is being able to have a seat at the head of the table, but also being able to be both things at once without them being mutually exclusive. So I think those layers of meaning in the lyrics and in the music video are really clever. Track number 13 is Obvious.
I let a taste of you in the morning, keep me warm and nothing else, nothing more important. Makes me wanna believe in love. Others that I've had to impress me before, but I knew you were the real thing when you walked through the door. Put the bands on me. When my love is free, ain't no price on my loyalty. Baby, could I be more obvious? If I'm lucky, you might stay the afternoon. If you gotta work, just promise me you'll come back soon.
That's cute.
You put the bands on me. When my love is free, could I be more obvious?
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. Another really high energy, fast moving track, super fun. Starts out spacious, then grows more dense in its production. I like the little warble in the tuning on her voice. It's those little details that really make this album feel adorned and ornamental and so luxurious. So this song is a story movement in two of Ariana's preoccupations. First, she's telling us even more straightforwardly than she did on Love Language that she no longer needs to cling to this materialism because she's found love. She says, my love is free, ain't no price on my loyalty. She doesn't need to cling to these ideas of wealth and glamour anymore as a coping mechanism. And second, she's opening up and feeling more confident because she's building a mutual sense of honesty. On a bunch of earlier songs like Motive and Off the Table, Ariana was reluctant to share her feelings with her partner for fear of being vulnerable, and she wasn't sure of her partner's motivations because she didn't know if they were being fully honest with her. Here, the title of the song itself, Obvious, is telling us that things have come to the surface in a comfortable way. There's no lies, nothing's hidden, it's all just love. The final track, track number 14, is POV or Point of View.
It's like you got superpowers. Turn my minutes into hours. You got more than 20/20, babe. Made a glass the way you see through me. I wanna love me the way that you love me. Oh, from all of my pretty and all of my ugly too. I'd love to see me from your point of view. I would love you even though I'm scared. Slide into me, grateful for my sin. Lie into my baby, what is mine? I wanna love you the way that you love me. Won't keep you waiting, waiting. My baggage waiting, safety waiting. My eyes deceive me, won't let them stray too far. I wanna love and need to see me from your point of view. Yeah.
Aw. And that is how the album ends. The song sums up the album really well because we get the impression that opening herself up physically has been a conduit to opening herself up emotionally. Ariana says that she has been honest and open and has established trust with her partner, and there's a give and take. She offers passion and vulnerability, and he offers faith and confidence. Once again, they complement each other. So now she's able to turn around and look at herself in the mirror with honesty. She's replaced the platitudes and affirmations of shut up and just like magic with a realistic, concrete recognition that she needs to learn to love herself. She needs to switch positions and see herself how her partner sees her, with love. Overall, while I don't know if this album quite reaches the same level of vulnerability as Thank You Next, I think that's part of the point. Because on Positions, Ariana spends a lot of time trying to avoid and cover up her trauma. She uses romantic flings and self-aggrandizement that, bit by bit over the course of the album, she deconstructs to show us the universal truth underneath, the need for self-love. And what I think is really cool is that since Sweetener, Thank You Next, and Positions all came out in such a short period of time, we're almost seeing Ariana's character growth in real time. And in that way, it feels like it progresses directly from both of its predecessors. Positions feels like an extension of Sweetener because of her impulse to glaze over and idealize her life, and like an extension of Thank You Next because she's healing and moving forward to new love. And even if the ultimate conclusion that she needs to love herself isn't exactly revelatory, seeing this growth over the course of these 3 albums has been really rewarding. So as always, let me know in the comments down below what music I should react to next and what other topics you'd like to see me cover on my channel. Check the description for that donation link. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos every week. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you are staying safe and healthy. And until next time, that's it.